Hello, everybody. Welcome to Standards-Based STEM Lessons. My name is Beth Alderson. We're going to be together for about half an hour. I think, keep our fingers crossed. And we're going to talk about how to create a standards-based STEM lesson, how to take the standards from your curriculum and build a STEM activity and project around those standards. Okay, I do it every day in a STEM lab. I work at Aberdeen Elementary School in Moore County. And you're in my beautiful new classroom. We got a brand new building, but I figured I wouldn't do anything fancy. This is just Friday me. So I would say if you have any questions, just let me know, but you can't really do that. So at the end, my email's at the end, and you can always contact me with any questions you have. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me get my screen here. I should be an expert at doing all this online stuff now. Shouldn't I? Yes, I should. All right, so standards-based STEM lessons. I have a bit.ly down at the bottom that you can use to access this presentation at any time. I do have some materials for you and some templates that you can get to through this presentation. So feel free to harvest whatever resources you want to from this presentation. All right, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Beth Alderson. I am an upper level English teacher turned digital facilitator turned K-5 STEM lab teacher. I'm also dabbling a little bit this year in teaching kindergarten to help out with some virtual academy here at our school. So I've done a little bit of everything. My email is down there at the bottom, as well as my Twitter handle. I haven't been able to be on Twitter as much this year just because I've been doing so many different things, but I do have some fun STEM stuff on there as well. I want to give credit to Miss Nova. She did help me with this presentation when we put it together, so I wanted to give her a shout out. This is Melissa Novakovic. She is a media specialist here in Moore County, and I wanted to give her a quick shout out because she did help me harvest some of this information. All right, so let's talk about standard-based STEM lessons and how I got involved in this whole scenario. So I was a digital integration facilitator with Moore County Schools, and the principal at the elementary school I worked at, his name's Dante Poole. He's an amazing human being, and he somehow talked me into going back into the classroom. He talked me going back in the classroom, and he told me, he said, Beth, our science scores need help. So I want you to start a STEM lab where you do STEM based on standards. He said, I want to be entirely standard based. I don't want a makerspace type of environment. I want a STEM environment that is entirely around the standards they are learning in class. So I started a STEM lab, and it's been 3 years now, and I have learned and grown and made lots of mistakes. So I'm going to share all of those mistakes, growing pains with you, as well as some resources for you. And these are just some pictures of some of my babies doing amazing things. Up at the top, we were learning about wind and air. So we were doing some painting with straws and paint. I have a girl there doing static electricity. She's got some floating plastic going on. Around Halloween, we always did a pumpkin challenge. You know, can you make something that stands a certain height with a pumpkin? And then we do a lot of building and engineering in the STEM lab. So building is really, really important, and we do quite a lot of it. Wooden blocks and kiva planks are definitely an everyday occurrence in the STEM lab. All right. So before we went on, I wanted to kind of take 2 or 3 minutes to talk about STEM lessons versus makerspaces, because when I started the STEM lab, the principal I was working with made a very distinct distinction when we started the STEM lab. He said, I don't want it to be a makerspace. I want it to be a standards-based STEM lab. So I had to do a lot of research on, okay, how do I do this? What is the difference? What are they? And some people get really angry when I say it's not a makerspace, it's a STEM lab. And some people get very angry and that they're the same thing. And so I just wanted to spend a couple minutes on that. So why a dedicated STEM lab? Well, again, I told you because our science scores were low and my principal wanted a way for kids to have their hands in engineering and problem solving while integrating the standards. Can I do it without its own class? Absolutely. All of these lessons that we're about to talk about, you don't need a STEM lab. You can do them in your classroom. You don't need a specialist like a digital integration facilitator or a STEM teacher to come into your class and do these things. Miss Nova, who I showed you at the beginning, she does these in her media center. So these are all ways you can integrate them. Like I said, library integration. And the last question people always ask me is, why not just a makerspace? Well, let's talk about a makerspace versus a STEM lab. So when I talk about a STEM lab, I say standards focus. It is a classroom where I have to put I can statements on the board, okay? And the way I've always seen a makerspace is a place for creation, right? A makerspace is I want a space where I can send my kid, my students, even if it's just a corner in my room, where there's really no limitations. You may send them with a goal in mind, but they can use whatever they want in any manner they want to create whatever they want, right? The way we wanted to do it in the STEM lab was do a more content included creation. We wanted to steer them in a very specific direction. Instead of sending them and letting them have all the choice they wanted to, we were going to do creation, but we were going to make it very standards focused, okay? And in our STEM lab, we do a lot of cross-curricular. We involve other classes. We involve other specials like art and PE. We even involve our OT and speech. So we do a lot of things in the STEM lab. Not to say that you cannot do that in a makerspace. That's not what I'm saying. What we created at Aberdeen Elementary School was a very specific type of STEM lab, okay? And so here we go. Planning a standards-based activity. I'm going to take you from the beginning to the end, and before we're done, you are going to be able to take whatever standards you want and turn it into some sort of STEM activity. Now, I think maybe for just 1 second, I want to talk about the idea of STEM. So the idea of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, you can add art into that. You can add, I've heard some people add literature into there. Some people say stream to add reading. So the idea of STEM, I think, is really important to just say creativity, right? You are creating something, you are involving engineering, problem solving into the standards. And I think the idea of STEM was just the way of someone saying, why can't we have these amazing things with our standards, right? And so that's kind of the way I went after it. So most of the examples I'm going to use today are K-5 because that's what I've done. However, I've done a similar presentation to this at NC Ties, and I had people all the way in high school able to come up with some ideas. So my examples are all going to be K-5 just because that's what I teach. However, this is applicable to any grade K-12 or even specials. So here again, here's some pictures. Down in the corner, we're doing some coding with B-bots, and we were integrating that with math. The one in the center is how I always start my STEM labs with 3rd grade, and that's with force and motion, and we make what we call apple annihilators. That ball in the middle covered in black tape is actually an apple, and they have to create a sort of catapult that knocks over things with their apple annihilator. They always have the best time with that. You can see the girl at the top playing with her magnets, and we'll talk more about magnets here in just a little bit. Magnets is like my favorite unit. And in that picture, the students had to create a way to get a paper clip to float. And she did that, and her group did that, and it was amazing. And in the bottom left right-hand corner, the students were creating and discovering with light, because that was 2nd grade, and we were studying light and sound, and they absolutely loved creating different window panes. That's just craft paper that we cut up. All right, let's do it. So when I am planning a project or a lesson, I do it in 3 steps. And I wanted to share those 3 steps with you and kind of share with you how my brain works. So I actually start with the standard. The first thing you want to do is find your unit or single standard that you want the students to master. So it can be an entire unit. If you are in a school or a district that uses units in your pacing guide, you can absolutely do a unit-long project with some sort of STEM and engineering. Absolutely possible. I do it with force and motion. I do it with moon phases for 3rd grade. Yes, 3rd grade. I did it 4th grade. Yes. But you always start with your unit or standard. Always, always, always. We use units with our pacing guide in Moore County. So I do a lot of units with science because they do them by units. So when I do with science standards, I usually use the unit. After I've just thought about the standard, after I've picked the standard of the unit, I then decide what my final project is to be. Okay, so I knew that when I did moon phases, I wanted their final project to be a stop motion moon phases. I think every teacher that teaches moon phases has done an Oreo stop motion project. I feel like that's the standard go-to. So you want to decide what your final project is going to be. When I do magnets with 4th grade, we do a derby, a car derby with magnets, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. So you want to know what you want your students' end result to be. If it's high school, you may have a month-long project where they end up with this entrepreneurial project presentation. Maybe they actually 3D print a design, a mock-up of a design. There are so many options you can do, but after you pick your standard, you want to decide, what do you want to end up with? Is it a project? Is it a presentation? Is it a car? Is it a video? What do you want your final product to be? And some of that can be up to the student as well. Your student can make that decision. And then lastly, you want to plan. Okay, once you figure out the standard and the final project, you need to frame it in a way that you can use in your classroom. So here I have done some examples for you. This is literally my ecosystem food lesson plan, right? So the way I do it is I put my standards in there, the materials I'm going to need, my online tools that I'm going to use, the objective of what I'm doing. Then I do a timeline. I only saw my students for 1 week every 5 weeks. So I knew that I needed to finish in 5 classes. Right? I had 3 hours and 45 minutes to do this project. Okay, you may have a lot more time and be able to get a lot more done. I had vocabulary, both essential and supporting, and then I have my outcome and my product. So each student will produce an ecosystem diagram and insert into theme link in order to explain details in the ecosystem. That I knew that's what they wanted to do and what I wanted from them. And then once I had kind of my lesson base, I then created a plan. So I split up each day. I knew exactly what I wanted to accomplish in each day, and I knew how I was going to get there. This is going to be really important, especially keeping kids on the timeline when you're doing a standard-based lesson, because otherwise they will take months. And you think they're going to go really fast. Some kids will finish in a day, and some kids will take a month. So you have to really keep them on a timeline. I am providing to you the template that I just showed you, as well as my example for Earth and Moon rotation. When you click on these links, you will get a copy. So it'll make a copy into your Google Drive or wherever you'd like to make that copy, and you can use it. Erase what's in there and put what you want in there. If you don't like the way I've designed it, you're more than welcome to make your own, whatever excites you. But I wanted to go ahead and provide that to you because I find that really works for me. All right, so let's talk some examples, because sometimes I'm a visual learner. I have to see it. So I wanted to give you guys some examples of the lessons that I have designed around standards. All right, so these are some examples of the standards and product. So this is the moon phases standards. It's a 4th grade standard. So explain the cause of day and night based on the rotation of the Earth. Explain the monthly changes in the appearance of the moon based on the moon's orbit around the Earth. So as you can see in these pictures, I provided them pictures of the phases. They then used Oreos and created their own backdrops. So I made them create their own backdrops to use. And then we used our iPads with our stop motion app to make stop motion videos. And they turned out amazing. And I have a couple to show you so you can see. But I started with the standard. I knew what I wanted to end up with. I knew I wanted to end up with a stop motion video. And then I planned the days inside. And I knew exactly what the students needed to finish on each day in order to get where we wanted. Okay. If I have any media specialists in the room or on the computer, I wanted you to see, because I know you guys have different standards, I wanted you to see how you could integrate the media specialist standards into your projects. So copy this, use this, but I wanted to put that in there so my media specialist would be able to use that as well. Here's just a couple examples of our Moon products. Now, this was the first time some of these kids had ever used stop motion. So some of them were great and some of them were a little rough. But you know, we did a lot of problem solving, and you'll hear that a lot in your sessions. Problem solving, problem solving, problem solving, right? I want you to work the problem and I want you to figure out how to fix it. Mostly without my help. I want you guys to brainstorm, you and your group, and come up with a solution. So you'll see this group down here actually did a rocket, which I love. So let's see if we can get this to play here. Yep, there we go. Around the moon, you can see they were able to cut up the white in the moon. Now, was it the best stop motion video ever? No, absolutely. However, with Oreos, kids will do amazing things. Here we go with theirs. Like I said, not the best stop motion videos you've ever seen in your life, but man, they put so much work into it and really, excuse me, and really worked hard to make sure that they turned out the way they wanted to. So again, I knew what my end product was going to be. I knew I wanted a stop motion video, so I was able to work backwards from there. This is a 5th grade standard. This is body systems. Body systems was one that for some reason students really struggle with. So the teachers and I kind of worked together. I worked with their science teachers to try to come up with a way to make it more, I don't know, hands-on for them. And this is what we came up with. And we actually integrated this into a science night, a STEM night that we were having at the school. So I planned its timing around that night. I started with the standard, comparing the major body systems. I knew I wanted to end up with this living museum of body systems. So I knew I wanted that, and then I worked my way backwards. And I decided that each group would have a body system. As you can see, here's my boys group down here drawing the body systems. They had a great time getting on the floor. I did provide them, because body systems can be a little iffy depending on the Google search, I did give them a research document. So I prepared them a research document. I threw it in Google Classroom. So they had already links that I had checked out to look up, you know, the systems, the pictures, and all of that. And if you look real close at this picture, you'll see these QR codes. What each group did was, once they created their body system, their body, they then had to make Flipgrid videos that explained the body system that they chose, different elements of it, maybe fun facts. And so they had to make, they each had to make a video. So depending on how many people were in the group, you'll see this group over here had 6, because they had 6 group members. Each member had to create a Flipgrid video. And then on STEM night, the parents were able to walk through, scan these QR codes, and find out all about the body system. Now, we had 4 homerooms in 5th grade, so there were 4 sets of these bodies lining the hallway, and the parents just absolutely loved it. And the kids remember too, and the kids were actually really creative. So I started with the standard, then I knew what I wanted them to create, and then I planned in the middle. Because once you know the standard and once you know your final product, the middle part is just logistics, right? How do I want them to get to the end product? Do I want to give them a research document? Do I want them to use the Google Classroom? Is it gonna be all digital, or are we gonna use paper to draw the bodies? I could have done like a Google drawing where they put the body systems on, but I decided very specifically that I wanted them to draw them, okay? This is a 3rd grade standard, changes in speed and direction, force and motion, right? Relative speed, faster, slower. This is a variation of any Egbert you want to use. You had an egg and they had to build a parachute that would save their egg. So this is like the parachute, like a air balloon basket. They each got a brown bag, like a brown lunch bag, and then some supplies. Now you can integrate math into this. You can have them do a budget. When we do engineering projects in Moore County schools, you'll hear a lot of diffs say we do budgets, and we do budget sheets for our elementary school kids so that they're integrating that math. You can also integrate writing and reading into this. Maybe read a book about hot air balloons or parachutes. You could have them write a nonfiction, piece about the science of it. You can include all of these things. I had a high school teacher come up with a variation of this for her physics classes, and she was very excited about it. They decided they were going to drop them off the 2nd floor of the school, and much more sophisticated than these, and I was very excited. She sent me some videos of them. She absolutely loved that one. This one, I decided to do a cross-curricular in case I have any English teachers out there. This is actually an English standard, a language arts standard for 4th grade, talking about character setting, story details. And then for writing, it's about introducing a narrative, introducing characters, a sequence of events. So what I did was I pulled out all of my Legos and all of my Lego story starters from way back in the day. I don't think they make story starters anymore. And I had them pick a story, and they could pick any story they wanted. And this is where student choice came in. I knew the standard, and I knew what they wanted, what I wanted them to end with. I let them choose the middle. So they got to pick a story that they wanted to. Excuse me very much. But it wasn't just they built the story. They had to change the ending of the story. So they had to change the ending. They had to rewrite the ending of the story by changing key details within the story, right? So then after they were done building their Legos, it just wasn't about the building of the Legos. After they were done building the Legos, we did kind of a story walk where they walked around the room, kind of like a museum, and the group had to tell their story. They had to tell the story from beginning to end, and then the class had to guess what story they were telling. So I had one group do the 3 little pigs, and at the end, the wolf wins, right? So there are lots of variations of this. However, it was actually, one of them was a water boat, right? And they weren't pigs, they were hogs, which apparently are more dangerous. They were giving us a big lesson. So it can be as simple as something like that. And then this 4th grade group decided they were going to use The Mummy. Yes, that Mummy movie, one of my favorites, Brendan Fraser. And they built this. Look at all these Egyptian pieces. They dug through that Lego box and they found these. And look, you can even see Rachel Weisz's character looking at the hieroglyphs. And then here's our mummy coming up behind her. They really put a lot of thought into this one, and I was super pumped for them. And the details that these kids came up with for rewriting these stories was absolutely amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I was really proud of them. So there are ways to do STEM in reading as well, because really, like I said at the beginning, the idea of STEM is really around problem solving, group work, integrating those ideas of engineering and math and science into other things. So we took an ELA standard, we had an end product in mind, and then we mixed in that group work, that engineering, that problem solving, that higher order thinking, because they really had to think about, okay, this is the new ending, and this is how we're going to get there. I was really proud of the kids on this project. They really enjoyed that. 2nd grade, sound, they had to create bee buzzers. The kids really enjoyed the bee buzzers. We were talking about vibrations and how sound comes from vibrations. So they had to design a bee buzzer. Now, I knew they were going to end up with bee buzzers. I also knew how they were going to make those bee buzzers. So the idea of design didn't necessarily come in with this one. However, I did a follow-up project to this that they had to design an instrument. So once they learned about vibrations and how sounds are made, they then use that knowledge to create an instrument of their own out of supplies. So again, I started with the standard. I knew what they wanted to end up with, and then I planned the middle. Okay. Again, just kind of the same thing. This is magnets. They created magnet cars, and we had a magnet car derby. I'm running out of time, so I'm trying to go a little bit fast. These are some examples of those air balloons that I showed you. I did it in slow motion. You can see them bounce, but most of them survived. I think I only had one or two that did not survive. I couldn't let the kids climb higher than that in the chairs, so we did them from chairs, and they had a great time dropping those eggs. Some of the parachutes didn't work, and they had to go back and redesign. So when you're talking about engineering, the design and problem-solving element is really important and special. Okay, now we're going to do it together, and this is kind of a little assignment for you, and a little collaboration with everybody. And I think we were up to like 60 or 70 people in this session, so I want us to share some ideas. So in about 10 minutes, okay, I'm going to leave this link here for you. I found a standard, and you can use whatever standard you want. I just kind of picked a couple standards. I picked organisms and inheritance, the standard for genetics, right? I have the final product, and then you plan, right? So I did 5-day products. You can do 5-week projects. You heard me say the word projects a lot. You can do a very long project. You could take a unit and you could make your project 5 or 6 weeks, right? This is totally possible. Or you could do a 1-day activity with a standard-based STEM activity. These are all things that could happen. But what I'd like you to do, if you can, or if you have time, is come up with an idea. And I want you to share your idea. This is a Padlet, and I'm going to go to it so that you can see it. This is a Padlet, and if you've never used a Padlet, you just click the plus down here, and I want you to come up with an idea. So maybe I do genetics, and my final product is going to be, I want to do potato people. If you've never done potato people for genetics, look it up. It's amazing. So I'm going to leave that there because I want to leave this product idea for everybody. Okay, so I want everybody to contribute an idea for a project so that we can all come back to this and maybe share some ideas, because I think it's really important to share ideas. Let me get back to the presentation and then we will finish up. So if you have time, it would be great if you could maybe share your idea about a final product with us, especially if you're high school, secondary. I'd love to start a little database of ideas for secondary classes. So kind of pick a standard or a unit and come up with a final product. And if you could put that final product in this Padlet, we can share some ideas and come back to them. All right, so if you have any questions, and man, that was quick. It felt like it was forever. I mean, it felt like it was quick, but it was over 30 minutes. So, and Mr. Johnson told me I could only do 30 to 45 minutes. So here up here at the top is the link for attending this session. If you put in this link, then, or if you click this link, if you're in the slides, or put in that link in your browser, you will be able to go to the evaluation. Be nice, it's a COVID year. No, I'm just joking. So this link is for you, and my email is down here. Please reach out with any questions. I know it's a big undertaking, and I only had 30 minutes. So please feel free to email me with any questions. I live on my email. I'm teaching virtually right now, so I literally live on my computer, and I'm pretty quick to answer emails right now. So please reach out if I can do anything to help you. I tried not to talk too fast. My students always tell me I talk fast, but I was trying to get a lot of information in. I tried to give you as many examples as I could come up with. Please steal or harvest, as my principal calls it, harvest that lesson planning template until maybe you start to think what would work better for you. Let me know if you've tried something at your school that you really love. I love new ideas, and I need new ideas because sometimes you feel like you're in a rut and you need new STEM ideas and engineering project ideas. So please feel free, throw it on that Padlet for us so that we can all share in your awesomeness. All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate all of you, and you guys have a very safe rest of the school year. Bye.